Hello everyone, this is the end of the Tadayoshi Shinsakuto Katana project that I've got going on, part 3 and the finished result. Just a quick recap if you haven't been following along. First I got a bare blade in polish without Hibachi, then I acquired the Fuchikashira Kojiri, Minuki, and Tsuba, and I sent the blade off to have the Suka and Saya and Hibachi made. I'll link those videos below. Starting with the fittings. The Fuchikashira and Kojiri are all from the same set. I got them some time ago in a trade, and I was told they were from an old Japanese iaido, but I'm not 100% sure of their origin. What I can tell you is that they're cast from brass, they have a nice texture on them, they're in a state of good repair, and I opted to use them on this project because of that. The Kashira has a higo pattern on it as well, or higo, I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce it. It blends well and it goes with the Mitsudome theme that I throw all over everything all the time. I haven't done gold fittings before, or brass fittings or a gold theme on a sword before, so this is a bit of a change of pace for me. The Minuki were made by Hyper Cafe. I bought them some time ago with the intention of using on a different project that fell through. Now I'm using them on this one and I think they go really well. They're also a simple brass construction and they have a Mitsudome theme on them, which, as I mentioned, I seem to be unable to escape. I also like how the Minuki have been blended in to the Ito and overlapped slightly as opposed to simply being placed underneath. The additional detail there is very visually appealing to me. The Suka is wrapped in a lovely golden brown silk and it's done in Hanari Maki. That's just a simple kind of diamond pattern if you're familiar with the various styles of Ito Maki. I really like this color because lots of golden Ito is very light and shows signs rather quickly, signs of handling that is. There are gold colors that match the lacquer maybe a little bit better, or the Fuchikashira a little bit better, but I haven't really been happy with them in the past. The deep gold should keep the signs of usage at bay while simultaneously blending in pretty well. Under the Ito is a full wrap of black lacquered Samegawa. Now panels would have been a little less expensive, but a full wrap of Samegawa increases the strength of the Suka, at least I believe it does, and I think it's an important thing to keep on a custom blade and something you should expect for a blade in this price category. I'm very pleased with how tight the Ito is and even how in line the diamonds are and how even they are. I think the Suka came out just fantastic. I'm very pleased with how well the Ito lines up with the Fuchikashira as well. There's almost no transition and I'm really pleased with how nice and even and crisp and clean everything looks. It's an iron tsubo with a Mitsudome theme to it. It has a Mitsudome cut out to give you the swirly Mitsudomes on it, but it also has some brass inlay that blend well in this project. I think it meshes well with the rest of the fittings and it keeps up with kind of the black and gold and Mitsudome theme that I was going for. It's easy enough to find old tsubas, but finding an antique Fuchikashira for a blade of this side would be a mix of challenging and expensive. My objective in this project was to kind of keep costs down, and the tsuba was maybe a little bit more expensive than it needed to be, but I think it complements the theme and adds to the visual appeal enough to make it worth it. There's a new Hibachi for the blade, and that's nothing that you shouldn't expect from a custom sword. I opted to have the Hibachi made in brass so that it would match the gold and black theme. Unfortunately, brass Hibachi remind a lot of people, myself included, of production katanas because every one of them seems to have the same brass Hibachi on them. So I'm not 100% a fan of brass, but I do think it was the right aesthetic choice to go with this to keep in the theme. It's a custom-made Hibachi with custom seppas specifically for this, and it came out very well. The Saya is something special for sure. The interesting part is there is a base coat of gold paint that's somewhat bold. It matches really well with the Fuchikashira and Kojiri. Then there's a coat of black ishime over the top of that with a random splatter pattern on it to show the base coat underneath. Now the interesting thing is that a lot of times if you saw this type of visual, you would expect that the gold would be on top of the black ishime and there would be a textural difference between the two, and that's not the case here. The ishime is the top coat, and so it has like a lattice or lace pattern that shows the gold underneath. The ishime also has a texture to it. It's a rougher substance and the gold is a very smooth gloss. So it's a very interesting contrast on the saya itself. There's also a metal Kojiri, as you can see on the end of the saya. The Koiguchi is simple wood, but it's been painted to match the base coat. It also has a horn kurigata, and the Hibachi holds very well in the saya. The blade is the last bit to ramble about. The blade is signed Tadayoshi Saku, at least from the translation that I am able to do, but I don't know if the signature is Gaime or not. I didn't get any paperwork with the blade, I don't have any prestige, and I don't know much about the smith, frankly. What I can say is that This is a Shinsakuto. It's made of folded steel. It's got a really interesting hamon. The lines in the sword are clean for a blade, at least in this price category. It's not a national treasure level sword, but it is a very nice Shinsakuto with signs of things that you would expect from a custom blade like this. It's got a really wide profile like many Shinto swords. It almost reminds me of a competition cutting style blade. The hada is very subtle and the polish is also very basic. It's a good polish, but it's certainly not an art polish. I would imagine that a lot more could be revealed or brought out in the blade if it was done under a more artful polish. As it is, it works as a cutting blade. It would work fine as a decoration or as a collector's piece. The blade would also work for iaido, but it's a little bit heavy for that in my personal opinion. It's not really heavier than other blades of its size. In fact, it's a little bit lighter than what you might expect for a blade of its size, but it's still on the wider profile, heavier, stouter style blade. Additionally, one note that I would say is that the hada is very subtle on this blade. It's not necessarily a bad thing. As I mentioned, the polish is very basic, and if you look at the right light and at the right angle, you can see the hada on the blade and more detail in the hamon. It's just under a very basic polish right now, and that's why those details aren't brought out, and it has more of a mirror polish than something that enhances the effect of the hada. Now, my goal in this was to make a sword that would be able to be sold at an economical price point. I got this knowing that it wasn't the right size for me, and it'd be something that I'd put up for sale. And I wanted to do something a little different than the projects that I normally do. So I opted to go for something like a bold bling without a whole lot of price tag associated with it. And I think the black and gold turned out really well, and it hit the nail on the head. The sword came out in a way that I think is fantastic. It has a style that you don't see. It's a bit of a head turner. It stands out, but I think it still achieves a really great balance. There isn't any one part of the sword that steals attention from any other part. The saya has a lot of gold speckles to it, but the ito balances it out by being a bold color itself. There's nothing that really struggles or strains your eye for attention on it, and that's a balance that's more difficult to achieve than you might expect. And I think it really came out well in this example here. A lot of times when one part of the sword is gaudy, it steals all of your focus and you look at just that one thing. But if the sword has a balanced look, even if it is a little more bold, then it comes together and feels a little bit more natural. Now, I could definitely see carrying this around in my obi at the dojo. That would be fine, and I think it would also look spectacular as a decoration or a wall hanger if that's where it's destined to go. In either case, I think it looks really good. It functions really well. It's made for a practitioner, but looks really nice. It's durable and functional. I think it's going to make somebody a very happy person. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the series and found it interesting. If you did, I'd certainly love to see any commentary about what you liked, what you don't like, what you thought I should have done differently or better, or frankly, if you just think I have terrible taste, feel free and throw that down there too. Those are always fun to read in a very sad way, but still very worthwhile. I've got some very good ideas from criticism from other folks that's done constructively. On any note, if you like this kind of series, let me know and throw that down below. I'd be happy to keep doing it. I definitely have more sword projects going on this year, and if you want me to make videos about those, I'd be happy to. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.